Genius, get onto my show.
So in between singing gigs,
Yeah.
I was looking for a way to maybe make a couple extra bucks.
You have to. I mean, you can't support yourself on these little singing gigs.
No.
It's impossible.
I mean, even if you're doing everything that you could possibly do in LA, it's almost impossible to make a living.
Yeah.
So when I was a teenager, written down like my dream jobs list, and it was like astronaut, professional soccer player, professional baseball player.
Yeah.
I wanted to direct the Lord of the Rings movies before they were actually a thing. Like I was like, I'm going to direct the movies of the Lord of the Rings. And none of those were going to pan out.
Right,
so
right.
my number 5 on my list from when I was like 13 years old was audiobook narrator.
You're kidding.
Wasn't to be a narrator, because I was obsessed with listening to audiobooks when I was younger. I worked a lot in the yard doing landscaping. I was always driving to and from different sports practices and stuff, and working out at the gym. And so the only time, and I love reading, I'm a huge fantasy sci-fi nerd, so the only time I could get my reading in was to listen to a book while I was working in the yard, or while I was working out, or while I was driving to practice.
Sure.
So I listened to hundreds of books in high school and junior high.
Wow.
So I always thought it'd be super fun.
Yeah.
And
I don't have any experience with audiobooks at all. So that's why I wanted to have you on the show, because I honestly don't know. I don't think I've ever listened to a book on tape.
You know, a lot of people are in that same boat. A lot of people are like, you do what?
Yeah.
You write books?
Yeah.
It's actually the fastest growing segment of the publishing industry. And I think second after audiobooks is like adult coloring books.
Oh my God.
But audiobooks are actually, they're exploding. And I lucked out because, so I was in between gigs, I was out in San Bernardino doing a Jekyll and Hyde, staying with some friends in their office.
Yeah.
And they had a USB mic. And I was like, all my other dream jobs kind of not going to happen. Like, I should check out audiobook narrating. So I literally Googled how do I become an audiobook narrator?
Yeah.
Like and Google, the first thing that pops up is acx.com. Which was a contracting site that Audible had launched about 2 months before that. It was free, which is probably the only reason I ever did it.
Yeah.
Because it was free to make a profile
demo,
and to audition. So they had these little 5-minute segments for about 1,000 titles. You could go on, do an audition, email it or upload it to the site, and then the author, if they were interested, they would offer you the title. So I was like sitting in their office one day before rehearsal, and I just decided, I was like, I might as well, do some auditions. Like, I was sitting in an office like this, so there were planes flying, like garage doors, you could hear babies crying in the background.
Yeah.
And I booked 3 of my first 5 auditions. I got offered the books.
What?
And I didn't have a studio. I didn't know anything about audio recording.
Nothing.
No equipment outside of their little USB mic that they had sitting on their desk.
What is it? You mean like one of those Samson
Like
ones?
a snowball, like a little snowball.
Oh, yeah, a little blue. Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
So I had these contracts, and I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Because I don't know how to do this. I don't know anything about audio. Because to do this, it was as an independent contractor, so I have to do all of my mixing and my mastering and my post-production, to do all the prep, everything. And I'd never narrated a book before. And all of a sudden I had these legal contracts. Like, I was like, I'm not going to turn down the work.
Just so in over your head all of a sudden. Yeah.
So what happens is I produce the first chapter of these titles.
With this little USB mic.
Yeah. Sitting in this office.
Yeah.
And I send them off for approval, because after the audition, you produce a small section of the book and then you send it off so that they can be like, yes, that's great. Or no, try changing it. Or the main character's name is actually pronounced like this, or whatever.
Right.
So to make sure that you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, this sounds horrible. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, where are you? I can hear like an airplane in one of these things, and there's like someone shouting. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I know nothing. And luckily at that point, it had just started. He thought I had promise, as dramatically. He liked my readings and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, I will help you set up your studio. I'll help you set up your levels and tell you how to record.
What
So,
equipment to buy? All
yeah,
that, everything.
via a series of emails, he basically helped me get to a level that was like good enough for the first couple books until I had enough cash to like get a nicer microphone
Sure.
and to get some soundproofing for the walls and stuff.
Sure.
So luckily, because they could have fired me real easy. They could have been like, "Oh, it sounds like crap. We'll hire someone who knows what they're doing."
Yeah.
But he believed in me and gave me a shot, and that was my first series. And it's actually funny. I'm not going to name any names, but he's actually now reviled in the audiobook world because he turned out to be kind of a shyster and
What?
didn't pay some people for some work they did and liquidated his company without telling anyone.
This is that Audible affiliate?
No.
Oh,
This
it's
is
something
it's
else.
just a guy
Just
who
some-
owns some
Got
rights
it.
to books.
Got it.
And
Sorry,
was
I
using
misunderstood.
KCX,
Yeah. Got it.
So anyway, everybody kind of can't stand this guy now, and he's kind of disappeared off the map.
But he really gave you your
But
shot.
he's the reason that
That
I'm.
is
Yeah,
so
so
funny.
it's funny because everybody's like, "I hate that guy." And I'm like, "Yeah, he's not the best, but
But
he
I'm
also
here."
yeah."